Any day you can get Tim Geddes and Greg Miller to curse and want to throw their controllers.
Oh, that was so good, wasn't it?
Awesome?
Yeah. That young lady right there helped me design the Mad Mario level. Is this going? Yep. We good? All right. Hi guys. If you don't know me, I'm a YouTuber, Boogie2988. I make them internets, and I should probably do this. What's up, ladies and gentlemen of Retropalooza? Boogie2988 coming at you live once again. Actually live through the power of what is apparently existence, which if you follow my Twitch stream you'll know is not real. This is the Matrix. But the point that I'm making is when I do any of these types of things, it's not about me. I can sit up here and lecture you about whatever particular crazy crap that I think is important. That's not what's important to me. What's important is what you guys find important. So I just like to do a Q&A. But I just want to make sure you know who and what I am. Is anybody here unfamiliar with what I do? Because I did have, okay, all right. So I make them internets. I tend to talk about gaming, and I try to put myself into a bit of a consumer advocacy position. I play a character by the name of Francis. My real name, for the record, is Steve. Everybody calls me Boogie in real life, but the character's name is Francis. He speaks with a lisp, and is supposed to be the amalgamation of everything detestable about gaming culture, the way we get really mad about things, we kind of get outraged all the time. But at the same time, I like to use the character to try to defend us from some of the most messed up stuff that happens in gaming, whether it's people coming down on us because we're misunderstood, or whenever companies try to take advantage of us with unfair DLC practices, or always online consoles or things along that lines. And the character has a particularly interesting dual-edged sword. Not only is it my bread and butter and my favorite type of video to produce, you guys seem to enjoy it, even though it's a parody of us. You guys seem to enjoy it because I tend to say and do the things that we all feel on some level. And the industry tends to like those videos because they know it's a parody of us, but at the same time it delivers a genuine, honest message about what we're feeling. And so every once in a while I'll get an email from, or I'll see in real life, like Major Nelson, or Adam from PlayStation, or Peter Moore, who know that character and have seen those videos, and I think it's kind of informational for those guys, like to get an actual idea of what we're thinking, what we're feeling, and I think it plays a minor role in that constant struggle and that constant battle between us getting a fair value for our money and not having to spend too much. Now, of course, I know we're talking to a retro audience here, right? We all know what it's like to actually purchase a cartridge that has the entire game on it, plug it into our consoles and play. Unfortunately, some of you, some of the kids that are growing up right now, they're never going to know that joy. They're never going to know the joy of what it's like to purchase a complete game that doesn't have to connect online, to get a day one patch that fixes the 6 broken bugs so that they can buy the season pass to get the quarter of the game that was removed. You know. And I guess if I were to lecture you about anything, this is probably one of the more interesting things I've discovered over the last couple of years. Gaming in this generation has become a very expensive prospect to create a AAA game. We're talking, what was it, a rumored $200 million budget to create Destiny. $200 million. And at $60 a pop, that's real hard to make your money back. So there's a certain give and take that we have to do with these industries. We have to give back the investment that they're making on us to some extent. You know, especially when they get it right. With games like Mario Maker, which is a love letter from Miyamoto to us. I mean, that game is ridiculous. Like, if you don't own a Wii U, this is the one you buy one for, just to be clear. Like, that game is everything you wanted it to be. But we still have that responsibility of keeping them in check. We still have the responsibility of saying no when it's no. We still have the responsibility of not pre-ordering when we shouldn't be pre-ordering, to not take risks on iffy games, to wait for the reviews, to wait for your favorite Let's Players, to wait for your favorite YouTubers. It's a complicated industry right now. It's a complicated world we live in. And so that's why I want to answer questions. I know I'm rambling. That's what I do. That is literally my... and I'm nervous today. But anybody has any questions, anything about modern gaming, what it was like when I was growing up and playing the games that we're collecting today, and playing those for the first time when they were brand new. Any questions at all, raise your hands and we'll get right to it. Start with you, Emma.
Well, actually, it's more about movies.
Oh, yeah?
What would you say is your favorite and least favorite movie so far this year?
Oh, God, was Mad Max this year? That movie was insanely good. And like a lot of people seem to make me, like, want me to not like it for some reason. You know, like subject matter or whatever. It's without a doubt one of the best movies they've ever made. I love the use of actual physical special effects, like actual practical effects. I love the fact that they used CGI when it was appropriate. I loved the feel of it. I just rented it and watched it a second time, and I loved it as much the second time through as possible. I know it's not very true to the original source, but man, that was good. Least favorite movie, I tend to not watch bad movies, so I tend to, when I say wait for the reviews, I even do that with movies. So until I know that the critics like it and the audience likes it, I generally don't waste my time. Well, honey, what's the worst movie we saw this year?
Probably that Amy Schumer one that was...
Oh, what? I did not care for that movie. What was it called?
Train.
Yeah, what a train wreck. A lot of sports jokes in that movie. And here's the thing, like I pride myself as being one of those nerds that is too nerdy for sports or whatever. I don't, you know, I mean, we all do that, right, to some extent. If you're into sports, you love them. If you're not, you make fun of people like sports the same way people make fun of us for liking games. I don't actually mean it. If you love sports, but I didn't like get half the jokes in the movie for some reason. But all the way back, let's go with you.
What's your opinion on the Red Ash Kickstarter?
I'm not familiar with it. Red Ash?
Yeah, it was a, so Inafune and the Mighty No. 9 team, basically before even finishing Mighty No. 9 releasing it, started a new Kickstarter for what is more or less Mega Man Legends 3.
I'm not familiar with that particular situation, but I can speak to Kickstarter in general. I have never supported a Kickstarter, and with the exception of doing a favor for a friend, I've never really done a shout out for a Kickstarter before either. And when I look at, I tend to think of Kickstarter as pretty much the ultimate in pre-ordering, because you're not even pre-ordering a game that's guaranteed to come out, and you're not pre-ordering a game that's guaranteed to come out in a physical form. And there's been so much just insanity when it comes to Kickstarter. I try to encourage everyone to think of any support of a Kickstarter to be a donation situation. So I'm going to give away this money and expect nothing in return in the hopes that something good will come out of it. And I remember getting a letter, I guess 6 months ago. There was a game called 7 Days to Die. I think it was zombie survival meets Minecraft kind of thing. And they never made good on their promised physical stuff. It's like 2 or 3 years later after their Kickstarter. And like I mentioned in the video, and I wrote those guys at 7 Days to Die, and I'm like, you know, this guy's really disappointed, and you know, you guys should do something about it. And they never even responded to me. I save your money. I mean, save your money for an actual game, one that you can physically hold in your hands, that you've read reviews on. If you decide to participate in any Kickstarter or any early release versions on Steam, always know that you're buying the idea of a game, never a game, and only do that if you can afford to spend that. You know, only if you can afford to give a donation to a guy who has an idea, who might possibly make a game out of that idea. You know? Who's next? Right there, orange hat.
I've heard you haven't been feeling well the last few days.
Oh, thank you.
Feeling much better?
Yes, actually, today's the first day I actually feel like myself today. I woke up with very little congestion. And again, allow me to lecture you just a little bit more. Your health is the most important thing in the world. Take care of yourselves. Learn from my stupid mistakes. I made a lot of bad decisions to where I get sick pretty often, and it's very devastating when I am. And I might have even prevented me from being able to come here today. Fortunately, it did not, thanks to the graces of my wife and the graces of wonderful antibiotics. But take care of yourselves. Without your health, you got nothing. So, but now I'm feeling way better today. Thank you for asking. Who's next? Right there.
You talk about Mario Maker, which is a great, fantastic game.
Oh yeah.
I don't see, well, no, you talked about the partnership programs
Right.
for Nintendo and how you're not on it. And I've seen the videos about you kind of talking about it, but I don't know how that works. And I thought maybe you could speak to why it is you've chosen not to be able to do Nintendo games.
Well, I choose not to do, like, even participate with Nintendo, not necessarily out of principle, and people like Markiplier, I can't speak for Markiplier, but people like Markiplier and PewDiePie do choose not to participate out of principle. I choose not to participate because I don't upload a lot of gameplay, so going through all the extra hoops and steps, which involve, basically Nintendo wants you to register your channel as a Nintendo affiliate. And then when you produce a Nintendo-related, there's two ways to handle it. Either your entire channel becomes Nintendo-based, or it's a variety channel. It's much easier if you dedicate your channel to Nintendo, but very few people want to do that. The people who want to do variety have to submit their videos ahead of time so that they can be approved. And then, as you guys know, all YouTubers earn some amount of revenue. Not a lot, but some amount of revenue based on views that they get on their videos. Nintendo is doing something that no other company wants to do and take a percentage of that revenue. So ultimately, you end up paying Nintendo to promote their games. And so out of principle, people like Mark and PewDiePie and some of the biggest YouTubers refuse to do that. Now, again, I can't speak for other YouTubers. Some other YouTubers have struck better deals than that. Specifically, some of the very large guys have exchanged for no revenue or even getting paid by Nintendo to promote their games. It's always on a case-by-case scenario. What interests me is not what those high-end YouTubers are doing. It's what your mid-level and your lower-level YouTubers who just love Nintendo and want to produce content and don't want to give up 10 cents on a dollar when they're earning $100 a month. They don't want to give 10 of it to Nintendo. You know, that's what concerns me. And so that's why that's why it's so frustrating, because Nintendo is a company that I've grown up with now my lifetime. I've been playing Mario for 30 years. I would absolutely love to produce Mario Maker videos for my channel. I don't want to pay Nintendo the rights to do it, specifically when other companies will pay me to do it. And it's just such a kind of backwards way of approaching the modern internet. You know, it just doesn't really fit the business model. Now, at the end of the day, Nintendo's a private company. They do whatever they want to do, and we just have to play by those rules. And unfortunately, that means some of our favorite YouTubers will never produce Mario Maker levels. They'll never play our favorite levels, and we'll never get to see that. It's super frustrating. And that could go away if Nintendo gets rid of that policy. And really, the question that we have to ask ourselves is, how much money could they possibly be making from it? Because, like, some YouTubers do really well, right? Even if you take 10% of everything everybody's making, that's not a lot of money to Nintendo. You know, it's one of the richest companies in the world. Like, they really don't need it. I think it comes from a cultural misunderstanding, you know? But I don't know. I ever hate to be harsh on Nintendo because I love them. They are my favorite. I'm sitting here with my 3DS on the stage right now in the hopes that I street pass as many of you as I can. You know, I mean, I could not be more dedicated to that company. But it's so frustrating when they don't get it, you know? Like, they don't get what we're trying to do, which is promote them out of love. Not out of greed, not out of desire to cash in, not out of anything else, other than, man, I love this game, and I want to share it with 1 million people. Please let me, you know? Anybody else? Questions? Let's try over here. How about you?
Will you do a live Francis rant?
Absolutely. Okay, let's see. What will we do? Let's see.
Let me tell you something, all right? As you guys know, I don't care for sports very much, all right? I don't understand your feet balls. I don't understand your baseballs. I understand the goal is to put balls into stuff. That's generally one of my goals. But, okay, I'm trying to get to the hotel last night. I'm trying to drive here. I can't get anywhere near the freaking place. Why are you people so excited? What was going on at the AT&T Stadium? Which, by the way, is a phone company. I don't know what that has to do with sports. Okay? Like, are you guys over there, like, are you playing, like, football on your cell phone? I don't understand. All I know is, how can you close every road? Like, I got to be able to get to my hotel. Get the hell out of my way, you sons of bitches.
like, who's next? Right there.
What type of game or technology from the past needs to make a comeback?
Ooh, what kind of game from, oh man, I don't know. You know what I miss is Wizardry style games. And I keep checking like the iOS store every day. You ever play the original Wizardry, like the ones that are on NES? It's like the dungeon delving, create a bunch of characters, put them in a party, and go across a grid-based dungeon and delve into it and have turn-based combat. Number one, why is turn-based combat going away? Why is Final Fantasy making the epic changes that they're making? I want Final Fantasy. Number one, I want the materia system back. Number two, I want turn-based combat. Number three, I don't know why Final Fantasy has to be action. But anyway, I would love to see Wizardry-style games come back. You really have not seen anything like it. If you haven't played the original Wizardry, don't, or any of the NES titles, because they're super frustrating. The very first time a Vorpal Bunny takes off your lead character's head, you will understand true rage. But yeah, I guess that would be it. We really don't see that anymore, and it's ripe for like phone games too. Like that's exactly what I want. Wizardry on my phone today. That's what I want. But who else? Right there.
You spoke earlier about the trend of video games being released now that are truly not finished.
Right.
I was wondering if you could speak a little bit about the circumstances that lead to companies deciding to release games that are just plain broken, like Assassin's Creed Unity, some things along those lines.
So basically what I've gotten from people inside the industry is it really comes down to mismanagement. And what they'll end up doing is they don't fully understand the people that are managing these projects, don't fully understand the incredible amount of work it takes to go from PlayStation 3 to PlayStation 4, Xbox 360 to Xbox One. They don't understand the amount of resources, the amount of art, the amount of time, the amount of recoding an engine, all that's necessary to really put one of these projects together. So they'll set what they perceive as an achievable goal of, we'll have it out by Christmas this year, and then they're not willing to bump a game back, they're not willing to miss a release date, they're not willing to do what is necessary to complete the game. And so these guys, the artists will get behind, the coders will get behind, the game developers will get behind. The answer is never delay the game, let's complete it, let's get it out the door. The answer is always cut something, cut this, cut that, fix this, gloss over that, we'll fix it after release, we'll have a day one patch. And a lot of that is not necessarily even mismanagement, is that AAA games are so expensive to produce now that if they miss a release date, it can often jeopardize the company. And we're seeing companies get out of the AAA game like Konami right now, who's completely backed away. We're seeing doors close. We're seeing people terrified to invest in this very expensive future because they'll release 4 games in a year. 2 will break even. 1 will lose their ass. And a 4th one will make a profit enough to cover the other 3 games. And if they miss that release and that one doesn't save them, 3,000 people get fired. So it's a really complicated, like, to understand that and to know that, you kind of feel really bad for them. But then it's difficult to understand why they wouldn't delay to finish what they're working on. Leonardo da Vinci would not have released the Mona Lisa and went, well, I'll put the smile on in post, right? You can't do that. You got to finish the painting. You got to finish the book. I will release the last 10 chapters sometime next year. No, finish your game and sell me a complete product. You know. The other thing that's really interesting to know from talking to these industry professionals is we all pay $60 for a video game in the United States. We're paying $90 if we're in Australia for a new game. And that target is just not a profit-making target anymore. But we're so resistant to change as gamers that we're not willing to pay more than $60. And so they've done the market research, and it makes more sense to them, based on research, to milk us after we've purchased the title than it is to try to charge us $90 up front. And again, that's all just in a matter of trying to keep doors open. Which is, again, one of the reasons I'm getting into retro gaming again. And that's why I'm getting into indie gaming more than ever. Specifically, people who are making games that feel like those old games that we used to play. Shovel Knight, anybody? Right. I really feel like I said this on the stage last year, and I'll say it again. I do think we're poised for a crash, not too different than the one that we had post-Atari that Nintendo saved us from. Except this time, instead of Nintendo saving us, I think it'll be the indie artist. We live in an age of self-publishing to where anybody in this room with enough time, mostly time, and skill, can code a game, publish it on Steam, sell it to the world, and be the next Shovel Knight, City Skylines, whatever game you want to use as an example. I think that is what's ultimately going to right this ship. You know, when they stop spending $200 million, and instead it's two guys in this room spend the next 2 years grinding away in the basement to produce the next truly wonderful piece of work. I'm a little idealistic, all the way in the back.
How much of whenever you're working on a franchise piece is writing, and how much is just improv because you know that character?
The process tends to be, I'll see something that the internet's getting upset about, or something will upset me in my home, and then I'll spend 24 hours generally just running ideas through my head that might fit or might work. I'll source Twitter and Reddit to see what people are saying. If there's a really, really good joke, sometimes I'll just borrow it. I hate that. I do give credit most of the time if I borrow a joke in the description box to say I stole this joke straight from Reddit. My wife definitely helps me write some of the funnier stuff that we've ever done. And then I'll try to have 5 or 6 notes in my head when I go into the process. I'll film it once, improvising it the whole time, trying to remember those little things and getting the fit organically, rather than try to force a script. Then I'll watch that take, and it's never good enough. I'm never happy with the first take anymore. And if you haven't noticed, I started doing more edits, jump cutting inside of Francis videos, in part because it's what people expect a video to look like these days, but also in part so that I nail it a little closer, like get it right. And also, it's really hard to scream for 6 minutes straight. It really is. And then if something worked and it didn't work, I'll take notes on that, and I'll try a second time, a third time, a fourth time. And generally the fourth take is the ones that stuck through 4 takes, those are the ones worth doing. And, but yeah, there are times, I think it's if you crack yourself up, I don't know if that's like conceited or if that's good. Because I always feel like guilty if I make myself laugh. But there are times where I'll be doing a Francis Ranger like, and I can't believe you shut your bitches, and then just start laughing at myself. And that's when I know I actually have something good that people will react to. Yeah. So thank you. Right there.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff in the media about like the DLC and how this is destroying the industry. But like, how do you feel about modern gaming as a whole?
If you'd asked me last year, my answer would be very different from this year. But last year I felt like they were really half-assing it. 2015 has been a great year for games, and we aren't even in the meat of it yet. But I thought Mad Max is one of the best games I've played in a really long time. I don't understand why the critics came down on that so hard. We got Fallout 4 coming out this year. We've got Mario Maker. We've had some incredible games this year. So I feel like this is what, now 3rd year of this generation for PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. I feel like they finally got their feet under them. And I think it's just going to get better for here. And if it gets better than this, then I'm all for it, because I've had a great year. I mean, it's been a lot of fun. I especially am, as always, excited to see what Nintendo's doing. That's still my favorite company. Even though I can't really talk about them much on the channel, it's still one of my favorite companies. And even though we have now Zelda and Star Fox delayed till next year, I can't wait. I can't wait. So I'm feeling actually really good about the industry right now. Last year, about this time, I was throwing up my mouth a little. Super depressed. Like, all they want is money, and I don't want to give it to them. Who else? All right, all the way in the back, right there. You, yeah.
What's your views on PC gaming and console gaming?
I think, all right, PC Master Race, right? I have a very powerful rig at home, and I keep powerful rigs at home. I build powerful PCs, and I prefer to play on them for streaming purposes. I use my consoles, in my mind, PC gaming is a sit-forward activity, and console gaming is a sit-back activity. That's what I do on my couch, in my living room with my friends, just screwing around. PC gaming is business, in my mind. Because that's where I do my work, right? So my view is pretty askew. I think most PC master race guys are, I think it's a joke, just to be clear. Like, even the guys who really believe that know it's a joke. We don't really think we're like massive, superior. I have a lot of negative terms to use there. I'm trying not to swear too much. I mean, yeah, there's no doubt that if you have a couple grand and you're willing to invest, you can get a much higher fidelity and a much better frame rate from PC gaming. Is it necessary? Absolutely not. And console gaming is a very fun, simple, easy way to do it. I've been console gaming since I was a kid, long before I ever had a PC. When I had a Commodore 64 was my computer. And the games on there suck, let's just be clear. I think it's a tongue-in-cheek rivalry. I mean, eventually you'll find that guy who's got Xbox tattooed to his forehead, and he's willing to kill somebody. No, PlayStation is the devil! You Sony pony! You know. But with the exception of that guy, I think it's a tongue-in-cheek rivalry, and it doesn't really matter how you game. It doesn't matter if you're doing it on your phone. To me, I don't care if your favorite game is Candy Crush. I don't care if you have a $3,000 dual SLI Titan rig at home across 4 monitors. As long as you're gaming, you're a gamer to me. As long as you're playing games, you're a gamer to me. It doesn't matter. We have that in common. Bullshit politics aside. It's never a brand. Like, that's so important. That's so important to me, and I can never fully express that, and I hope that I can now. Gaming is not a brand. Gaming is not Xbox. Gaming is not PlayStation. Gaming is not Sega. Gaming is not Commodore 64. Gaming is not PC. Gaming is the act of playing games, and it doesn't matter what device you do it on. It doesn't matter if you do it on a tabletop. It doesn't matter if you do it on a console. It doesn't matter if you do it PC gaming. Gaming is gaming. Brands will come and go. Never tie yourself to a brand. Okay, that's the dumbest thing in the world. That's what they want you to do, is self-identify with a brand. Come on, don't self-identify with a brand. Self-identify with yourself, but self-identify with gaming. Like, that's what's brought every person in this room together today. You know, a love of entertaining ourselves by challenging our minds, challenging our hand-eye coordination, challenging our mental fortitude. That's so much bigger than Sony or Nintendo or PlayStation or Xbox. I mean, that's love, man. I mean, that's love of gaming. That's love of each other. Don't let a brand get in the way of that, you know? Sorry. I mean, I'm preachy today.
So we're probably about getting close to a third to half the way through this new generation of video games. What is your expectations on consoles for the next generation? Do you think Sony is even going to come out with a PlayStation 5?
Well, I've had guys, boy, sometimes I wonder what I'm supposed to say, what I'm not supposed to say. So I'm just going to say it, and if I get in trouble, I'll get in trouble. But I do know for a fact they're expecting this console generation to last a minimum of 7 years, hopefully 10. And I think that was a little overzealous. Like, I think with the hardware choice that they made, so we're moving into 4K televisions, we're moving into 4K gaming and PC. We can't wait another 5 or 6 years for 4K to reach home television, I think. But the expense there is very limiting. I do know we have the Nintendo NX, what is supposed to be revealed next year, whatever that turns out to be. I think PlayStation 5 will happen eventually. I think eventually they'll realize that this hardware is not the one that they can sit on. I do know that Xbox One is probably, allegedly, already looking in that direction as to how to solve the equation, because they are very unhappy with the hardware choices that they've made internally. I mean, they're going to have to flip over another generation, but I would say we've got 5 years until that happens. Minimal 5 years before that happens. But they're definitely going to have to move in that direction. And I think once we finally do have the hardware, the human eye can only see so much, right? And unless you've got a 70-inch television at home, it's really hard to see 4K gaming. So once we have 4K gaming at 60 frames per second, whatever that hardware setup is for the PlayStation 5, that should be the last PlayStation. You know, that should, they don't have to go any further than that. The human eye can only do so much. You know? Right there. Orange hat.
What's the difference between a hot dog and a corn dog?
I'll tell you something, I've been thinking about that a lot, and I already told you once, and I'm fixing to tell you a third time, so you write this down. The only difference between a hot dog and a corn dog is the motherfucking corn. Okay? Now I know what you're thinking. Well, Boogie, there's a stick in them corn dogs. I've seen a hot dog on a stick, all right? And I've seen corn dogs without a stick. But you ever seen a corn dog? You tell me you seen a corn dog without corn on it, I'll call you a liar to your face. I'll tell you twice. But don't you forget. I often joke in videos about being crazy, but until you've actually been in our house for a short period of time, in which this is stuff I just scream to nobody in particular for some reason, and I wonder if what that makes me, what kind of crazy that is, but that literally came from me playing Mario Maker. I was playing, I think it was Ross's Super Meat Boy level, Meat Mario, God, the most frustrating level I've ever played. I'm about on my 100th life, which means I'm through the first column of spikes, and I just started screaming about corn dogs to nobody in particular, and then made a vine out of that. I'm glad you enjoyed that, though. Thank you. Who's next? Right there.
With Nintendo announcing their new president and leadership, what direction do you think, or do you think he'll change enough or change in one way or another?
I think they're on a good course moving towards the NX. And they've made the Wii U a very purchasable console now at this point with the software lineup. So if he doesn't change tracks, we're going to probably be okay. Like, I really feel like the Nintendo Next or the NX, or whatever they're calling it, I think that's the right decision. I think they need to reveal it next year and release it soon after. It needs to be at least as powerful as a PlayStation 4. And I don't think he's going to get in the way of that. But Nintendo's at a very weird crossroads now, because we're at a time where some of the founders that made the games that we love are either having to retire or, God forbid, are dying off. And I never feel sure about that company. I never feel like safe about what they're doing. But then again, I've watched that happen since the SNES. We've been calling their doom for 30 years. You know, I say, oh, the GameCube is terrible, and nobody's going to buy that. I happen to own two, but nobody likes it. There's not enough games for it. Now we're doing it with the Wii U. They'll always recover. I know this new guy is more of a financial guy than he was anything else, but maybe that's what they need right now. You know, I just hope that Nintendo never loses its for gamers by gamers. You know, that's what Sony was saying at the beginning of this launch of their generation, and it's true. I mean, Sony, everybody there is gamers, and they love games, and they make games for gamers. But Nintendo was that long before, and I hope they never lose sight of that. You know, like the people who pioneered that company love games, love the games that they make, and play the games that they make, and I think that's so important. I hope they don't lose sight of that. Who else? Right there.
Before I ask the question, I just want to thank you for coming out. It is so cool to be here.
Hey, thank you. So glad to be here.
My question is, do you have any advice for new Magic players?
Okay, don't. It's my best advice. No. There are a lot of different ways to play Magic. There's a very casual way of playing where you start with intro decks and you build intro decks and you don't really pay too much attention to formats and you play on your kitchen table with your friends. And then there's the next level up where you play Commander mostly and you invest in some expensive Commander cards. But once you have the Commander deck built, you always have it built. You're going to make some minor changes to it. That's a good way to play Magic too. Then there's the Friday night casual. You know, I build the current standard decks and I'm willing to spend $500 to do it so that I can go in and have fun on a Friday and feel competitive. And then there's what I did from 96 to 99, which is tour the country, going to every Grand Prix and every Pro Tour qualifier in the hopes of reaching the Pro Tour. And then there's the way that I play Magic now, which is get 4 of every card, never use them, lock them in safes, and then just say that I have them. Don't be me. That's my advice. Don't be me. Anywhere towards that casual end is great. right up to the Friday night. Friday night, I'm going to be the Friday night hero. I'm going to be the guy that walks in on Friday night and everybody quakes in their boots. Be that person at the worst. Don't waste 3 years touring. Because I'll tell you something, the Pro Tour is real hard to get on. Now, beyond that, I mean, just basic skills. Have fun with it. Don't take it too serious. Because that game has a lot of RNG. A lot of RNG. And I think that's part of the reason that game is always so. How many people here have played Magic in their lifetime? I'm very curious. How many people still play it on a regular basis? Right? Okay, just so you know, those of you who put your hands down, you're just on a break. You will be back. It never leaves your mind. But the game has a lot of RNG, and that's, I think, both its downfall and the big boon. You know, you'll always, I didn't draw the right land, I didn't draw the right card, I was playing towards a certain out and I didn't get that out. It's always the excuse you have for losing, and that gives you a freedom to try long story short, don't take that game too serious. And don't spend as much money as I have, because I'll kind of regret it. Next question. Let's go all the way over here.
I want to know, what is your opinion on the Smash Brothers technique?
I like Smash 4 a lot. It's 4, right? It's the Wii U?
Yeah.
I really like Wii U a lot. I like the fact that they embrace DLC and are adding characters. Shovel Knight, anybody? It was so good when there's a Shovel Knight amiibo. He's got to be in Smash, right? Like, that just has to happen. I don't know. It's been a lot of fun. I love the fact that they got Pac-Man in. It's a lot more casual, and a lot of my friends who are super serious about Smash, because it's a super serious game, don't enjoy it as much. I still enjoy it just as much. But then again, I'm the kind of guy who plays with items, so you know, I'm just not a serious person. But what do you think about it?
Well, I really liked it. It was like the second one I actually started. Like, I first played Brawl, and I loved it because Sonic.
Yep. Brawl. My friends took Brawl way too serious for me to be able to enjoy it. But then again, I'm just terrible at it, so that's the other thing. I just like dropping hydrants on people's head with Pac-Man. That's all I like doing. Anybody over here? Got any? Right there.
What are you looking forward to the most? Like, what game and why?
Going home to play more Mario Maker. No. Right now, Fallout 4. Okay. And I'm going to be honest with you. I often preach against pre-ordering games that we know nothing about. We know everything we need to know about Fallout 4. We know that it's going to be a buggy nightmare when it's released, because it's a Bethesda game, they always are. We know that it's going to be super frustrating, and it's going to need a week 1 patch to fix it, to make it playable, because there's going to be parts of the game you won't even be able to complete until they patch it. And I don't care, because I have to beat it before I read spoilers, right? Like, so I have to, like, the earliest I can get Fallout 4. But that's the game that I'm most excited for, easily. Who else? Who else cares about Fallout 4? What were you most excited about?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, right. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
You know me, Boogie.
Yeah.
Who else? Right there.
Two-parter. Are you going to grow your grid back out? And do you think you'll ever come to EverQuest again?
Okay, number one, here's the problem. EverQuest launched, I'm doing this in reverse order. EverQuest launched a progression server recently, and I started playing on it, and about 20 hours into it, which was one setting, by the way, it's very important you know that. 20 hours into it, I realized that I can't play EverQuest responsibly, that I'm an EverQuestaholic, and it will destroy me. And I kind of want it to. So if they ever release EverQuest next, I'm done with YouTube and Twitch and everything else. I'm just going to sit in the dark cave and die playing EverQuest next. But that's how I want to die. So, EverQuest, and to a lesser extent, World of Warcraft are very dangerous games for me. And we were talking earlier, you said that you were straight the EverQuest addict, right? It was very difficult to break from that. World of Warcraft was my methadone. So I went from EverQuest 20 hours a day, camping the avatar of fear in Khazak Thul for 48 hours straight once to get a Rubicite breastplate, right? I went from that to World of Warcraft, which allowed me to quit a little easier. And when I finally walked away from World of Warcraft in favor of focusing on YouTube. It was the smartest decision I ever made. That's why I don't know, man. EverQuest Next has the chance to kill me, but that's okay. As for the beard, yeah, I already miss it, and I'm trying to grow it back out. I don't know if I'm going to be able to, but it'll never look as good as yours. Yeah, so, but I already miss it. I don't know. I feel like a real man. Right here. Who else? Right there.
So the last couple of years, there's been a lot of controversy over game reviews and whether they're bought from certain sites and things. Do you think that like Twitch and YouTube's Let's Players have helped counteract that a lot?
Well, yes and no. A lot of shady stuff was happening on the YouTube side of things. A lot of people like to point at IGN, a lot of people like to point at Kotaku and say, I think I know what's going on over there. And I can tell you, I know what was going on over at YouTube. And I know that people were not being as disclosing when it came to paid promotion as they should have been. Fortunately, the FTC has gotten straight up involved now. And we have seen people getting fined. We saw Xbox and Machinima get fined. And now people are really afraid. And every review copy of a product or review game I've gotten has had express directions on how to fit FTC guidelines. So right now, I would say you can absolutely trust YouTubers and absolutely trust Twitch streamers, because most of us are afraid of getting sued out of existence by the FTC. There's always going to be personal preference involved, and you always have to know your reviewer. That's one of the reasons I think it's better to follow YouTubers and Twitch streamers to get an opinion for a game, but I think you're always better off getting the opinion yourself. And we live in a day and age where not only on the day that the game comes out is it getting Twitch streamed, but even sometimes 2 or 3 days before the game comes out, you're seeing game footage on a YouTube channel. Form your own opinions. Like, you're more capable of doing that than ever. I was reading Electronic Gaming Monthly, in 1992, trying to get 3 screenshots of a game and form an opinion off of that. And of course I was heavily influenced by the writer for EGM of what he had to say about the game. Oh, this Ghosts and Goblins does look really good. I'll purchase this. Worst purchase decision of my life. I hate that game. But now you can actually just watch the game get played. And I mean, some YouTubers are going to highly edit it to make the game look at its best or fit his editing style. But when you can see an actual just let's play and see the first 20 minutes of a game, which one of the things I think is fascinating is that not only are the companies embracing that by involving YouTubers, they're embracing it by just releasing, here's the first 20 minutes of our game right on our official channel. Like, you have more power ever than to make an educated consumer decision than you ever had. Don't rely on anybody else's opinions. Rely on yours. You know you better than anyone. Does that make sense? Who else? Right there.
So I just started Hearthstone.
Oh yeah. I'm sorry.
Do you have any tips for beginners?
I say the best way to play that game financially responsibly is to grind out your daily, get 150 gold, play an arena, try to 12-0 it, repeat the process every day till you have enough dust and packs to build the perfect deck, right? Like, that's the correct way to play it. That's also the best way to practice that game without investing money. And I think the mechanics of that game are difficult enough, especially for an existing Magic player, to grasp. Cards work so different than other card games, specifically the way they don't heal at the end of turns and the way board states are pressured in the stupid combo decks like Grim Patron. I say practice as much as humanly possible. Get that free arena in as often as you get 150 gold. Grind away before you make an investment. That's the best advice I can get.
I make it to about 2 before I'm wiped out.
Oh, well, I mean, that's pretty reasonable. I just 0-3'd an arena live on stream the other night, and I hate myself because I should be better than that. Who else?
I forgot my question. I'll ask a different one.
Okay, the answer is butts then.
So, Nintendo is already thinking of doing another console.
Right.
And people are wanting it the replacement for the Wii U.
Right.
And do you think that's very, consumer friendly to the people who bought the Wii U, thinking that it would last as long as other consoles?
They were quoted as saying that they felt that they would not release another console until they felt that Wii U users are satisfied. And a year ago, I was not satisfied. I was very frustrated. But with a new Zelda coming and a new Star Fox, which I'm not that excited about, but a new Star Fox coming, with Smash 4, with Mario Maker, with Pikmin 3, with the incredible lineup that the Wii U has, I'm actually satisfied. And I don't know if you are, but I would imagine they've pretty much hit the nail on the head with the Wii U. And if the game lineup, including Zelda, all the way up to Zelda, that game lineup was all that console ever got, I'm okay with that. I think they desperately need to get into new hardware, and I could only imagine what the next Mario game will look like with PlayStation 4 style hardware. Oh, God, that would be incredible. So I'm eager to do them. I think it is consumer friendly only in that we sold, what, 2.4 million Wii U in Japan and only 10 million Wii U overall. So they're really not disappointing that many people, if you think about it. And I think those of us who did purchase were dedicated Nintendo fans anyway. And I think they've done what they needed to do to satisfy us. I hope you guys agree. But yeah, they have to do something. Because it really all came down to was that even though the hardware is a little behind, and that's why most of the reviewers and most of the websites panned it, most of the YouTubers panned it, it really came down to just a huge marketing mistake. Because to this day, I'll go to the electronics aisle in Walmart and just listen to people, and every once in a while, you'll hear somebody go, "What is a Wii U?" Well, we already have a Wii at home. Yeah, but isn't it it's like a small screen, right? Like that connects to your original Wii. Well, we don't need that. Like to this day, that marketing mistake was the worst marketing mistake of all time. The Nintendo Next, which I'm telling you, that's what they're going to call it. If they don't, they're stupid. The Nintendo Next, that's the one that any person can understand, I hope. And so I think it's better for us if they do move forward. Who's next? Right there.
Just in regards to your reply to the Deer Factor video, I just want to thank you for being a voice of reason in the YouTube community.
Thank you.
Like, on public opinion, you're one of the best voices out there.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. I feel like when I first started with the channel that there was not a lot of people being negative about gaming, so it was important that I was the guy who was pretty negative. And obviously people enjoyed it. But now I feel like some of the panelists that are here today, for example, do a very good job of being negative to their strength. So what I wanted to bring to the table, and really this hit home when I was speaking to Adam from PlayStation, he's like, "Boogie, you're one of the few cheerleaders we actually have. Like, when we get something wrong, everyone's going to say negative things. You're one of the very few people that say positive things when we get something right." And I really tried to focus on that. And I thought I was going to lose my audience when I did, but apparently that's not the case, and I'm very grateful for that. I'm still there to throw sticks and stones when they screw up, and I'm going to do that. But when they get something right, I really like to be happy about it. I'll tell you a fun story. Do we all know Peter Moore, CEO of EA, right? I saw him last November. And if you never met the guy, if you're watching this, Peter, I'm sorry. If you never met the guy, he's a Bond villain. He is. I mean, it's just like there's no other way to describe it. There's like a scary, haunting presence around him, and he sounds like a Bond villain. And so I'm at backstage, and I'm waiting to go on stage, and Peter Moore's there, and he walks up to me, and I swear, on my mother's grave, his hands are like this. And he goes, "Hello, Francis." And I'm like, oh my God, I'm in a Bond movie. And also my name's not Francis, but here's the thing. When a Bond villain calls you Francis, that's now your name. You just changed it to that, right? And I'm like, "Hello, Peter Moore, how are you, sir?" And he goes, "Have you played Dragon Age yet?" And I'm like, "No, sir, I haven't had a chance to sit down and play it, but I hear you up for a Game of the Year. I think you guys have it." And he goes, "Yes, I think we do too. Over 200 hours of gameplay in the main campaign." And I'm like, wow, he's actually the devil, right? And so I can feel the brimstone. I'm heating up. And I'm like, well, you know, man, I like it when your company does good things, Mr. Moore, because I get to say good things about your companies. And I don't remember exactly what he did after that. I think he pet a cat. I don't know where it came from. And then he threw a hat and took the head off a statue. I don't remember. I think I blacked out. But the point is, I like being able to say good things about companies when they get something. So I'm glad you guys appreciate that. Who else? Oh, yep, 5 minutes. We got 5 minutes. Make it quick. Let's do the lightning round. Go. Yes.
Your honest opinion, do you think it's a good time to get a PS4 or an Xbox One?
I would wait to see if there are any holiday price drops this year. I know the Xbox One is now back to $350. My Xbox One serves as a giant Roku for me for the most part. We use it for streaming video pretty well. But the exclusives are getting really good on Xbox One as well. So it's hard to walk away. The exclusives on PlayStation 4 are nuts. Bloodborne was one of the best games I've ever played. I'd never played the Dark Souls series. I think this year is the year to buy it, and I don't think they're going to get much cheaper. I think you'll see, this Christmas, I think you'll see the PlayStation 4 at $400 with a game bundled, and you'll see the Xbox One $350 with a game bundled, and I don't think they're going to get much cheaper than that. I think this is the year to buy it, for sure. And the libraries that are there are very consistent, very decent, very good.
Are you a Kingdom Hearts fan? And if you are you, how do you feel about the long wait with the Kingdom Hearts 3?
Okay. If the reason we're waiting so long for Kingdom Hearts 3 is because we get to go to the Marvel Universe and we get to play Star Wars, then it was worth the wait. If it is not why we had to wait, why do you hate us, Square Enix? I do know that one of the things they're trying to do is get everybody caught up with the back catalog of games by doing all the re-releases and things along that lines. I just don't care about those. I just want Kingdom Hearts 3. So I'm really frustrated with it. I presume you are too. Where is that game? Like, they're just now starting development. How is this 3 years in development? They just started coding it. All the way right there. Black Armband. You.
So what is your opinion on having a console be a little bit more expensive so they can add backwards compatibility, like the first version of the PS3?
I honestly cannot understand why they thought this would be the last Xbox or the last PlayStation that they would release and wouldn't have backwards compatibility. Like, it's absurd. But I will tell you that the Xbox One is leagues ahead of the PlayStation 4 in backwards compatibility, because PlayStation 4 is relying on the streaming service for backwards compatibility right now. And Xbox One, who here's played Rare Replay, by the way? That, again, another just love letter to retro gamers. It is incredible. But what's really interesting about it is they do emulate 360 games perfectly. They just really install the 360, the actual 360 game on your console and then emulate the 360. I think that should have always been part of the plan, to have backwards compatibility for this generation. And the fact that Xbox One has finally gotten that, and not only gotten it, but has almost perfected it already, I think it's great. Yeah, I don't know why it would be.
Let me say one more thing.
Oh yeah, one more thing.
Okay, we're gonna have to, when he's done, everybody's gonna have to go out that way. Boogie's gonna go out this way, and you will have a chance to talk to him when he's ready. So just make sure everybody exits out this way, because we have to turn over, and Boogie's gonna. And
I'll probably go straight to my booth, so you can just come that way. I'm gonna come say hi, okay? One more question from who I felt like I neglected this side of the room. So let's go with the blue shirt in the back.
If you had to be on a deserted island with one console with every game on it, which console?
Oh God! Oh my God! What kind of questions that? God! It might actually be the. Well, I mean PC, right? But you said console, so not format. If PC would be the obvious choice, 6,000 games on Steam. If it had to be a console, PlayStation 2, man. Holy, what a lineup, right? Like, it's just enough technology where it still looks beautiful. And what a lineup on that system, man. All right, guys, thank you so much for coming out. Thank you. Love you guys. Thank you. See you in my booth.